An unknown face takes to the crease, preparing himself to take on one of the most feared bowling attacks in the world. Two-time World Cup holders, the West Indies, in their third group stage match. Under this immense pressure, in a win or be eliminated scenario, this unknown batsman puts together one of the most insane, jaw-droppingly shocking innings to ever grace a World Cup fixture.
High and handsome, will it reach the boundary? Yes it has, he goes to 100!
His name is John Davison, and he had just hit the fastest century of all time. In what should have been an achievement to spark life into the game in Canada, fast forward 20 years from this iconic day, and if you search up Canada's greatest sporting achievements on your OLED, cricket is barely mentioned. So how did Canada manage to achieve such greatness on the world's biggest stage, but then also fall into obscurity only a few years later? This is their story.
Another good selection now, this one is huge.
Edge, there's the first wicket. Anderson Cummins, you have to say, is the man.
Our story starts in the late 1990s after Canada had failed yet again on the international stage following a winless 1998 Commonwealth Games campaign. Something had to change. Canada started to reach out to professional cricket players who played overseas who happened to have a Canadian passport. Most notably, Canada recruited Sri Lanka A batsman Brian Rajaduria, who had now made Canada home, to open the batting alongside Indian-born batsman Joe Harris. These two would be backed up by Barbadian-born players George Condrington and Nicholas Eiffel. With Canada wanting to make a statement with this new side, they put their hand up to host the inaugural Cricket America's Cup in the year 2000. And this was their turnaround, as this new batting lineup stunned opponents at this tournament. Playing out on home soil, in the second fixture of the America's Cup, Canada amassed 251 runs against the United States to dominate their continental neighbours. They would then go on to cruise through the Cayman Islands and Argentina in the following matches, qualifying them for the final of this tournament. Coming up against established cricket nation Bermuda in this final, this was the real test. For the first time this tournament, their opening batsman actually failed to fire, but fortunately for Canada, because they had recruited so well, their lower order batsmen were able to come to the table and pull them through. Canada was able to chase down Bermuda's total and now win their first ever major trophy in an undefeated campaign. Canada would take this momentum from this tournament victory into the 2001 ICC Trophy, which was now the real deal. This was a 24-team competition with nations coming in from around the world, with the top three qualifying for the ICC Cricket World Cup in 2003. In preparation for this tournament, Canada made their biggest recruitment yet, employing Australian batsman John Davison from the Victoria Bushrangers, who happened to be Canadian-born, to open the batting for the Maple Leaf Nation alongside Trinidad recruit Ishwar Mirage. Here, Canada would fight it out against more established nations, and they did face challenges as they would actually fall to the likes of Ireland and Namibia, but fortunately they were able to scrape enough points over the line in matches against the US and Denmark, which qualified them for the third place playoff. This would be where all their progress could have been rewarded, or it all could have been lost. And this was because a win would see them qualify for their first World Cup since the 1970s, and also receive a massive injection of money, somewhere around the $1 million mark, into domestic infrastructure and other community cricket organisations to help grow the game in Canada. Here in the final, they would come up against Scotland. Scotland batting first, Canada knocked them over for 176. So all Canada had to do when they came out to bat was keep their cool. But unfortunately for Canada, things got off to a rough start. Their star man Davison got bowled over for a duck, and at this point it looked like their dream was over. But clutch performances from Mirage and the experienced Chimney guided Canada through the innings and gave them a solid platform to roll Scotland over, and they did so comfortably in the end, defeating them with 10 overs remaining and sending Canada off to their first World Cup since 1979.
Welcome to the ICC Cricket World 3.
Team Canada.
Captained by Joseph Harris, Canada is making their first appearance at the World Cup. Catch them in action against Bangladesh on the 11th of February.
Coming into their first game of the tournament against cricket mad nation Bangladesh, the Maple Leaf Nation sniffed at an opportunity after they won the toss and elected to bat first. They were able to scrape a defendable total of 180 against Bangladesh in their first innings, so it was really up to their bowlers to make the difference. But this is where the world was introduced to the power of Canada's bowling recruits. Jamaican-born Austin Codrington was a rapid-fast bowler, and in his first ever international fixture showed that Canada would not shy away from the big stage. Codrington led the way from the front, snatching 5 wickets for 27 runs, securing Canada's first ever 5-wicket haul in a major world tournament, seeing Canada bowl Bangladesh out for a remarkable 120 runs to win their first ever World Cup fixture.
That's up in there, he's going to be out. There's a man getting underneath it and he's taking it on. Canada have won this match.
They destroyed the test playing nation and gave them an incredible 4 points, which saw them rocket to the top of their group table at the World Cup after round 1. Next up was tournament host Kenya in what would turn out to be one of the classics of the World Cup. New Zealand raised, now Canadian professional cricketer Ian Bilcliffe, now playing for Canada, hit his way to 71 runs in the middle order.
Great shot from Bilcliffe.
It's a good job he got some bat on that. He's got a lot of bat on it.
To give Canada a respectable total of 197 runs to defend. In what would turn out to be a classic run chase, the game toed and froed between Canada's bowling attack and Kenya's solid middle order batting. Canada initially took the upper hand, knocking Kenya's openers for cheaply, for then Kenya's middle order to solidify a good partnership, to finally Canada closing the game right back up with quick wickets at the end of the game. Unfortunately for Canada, Kenya in the end were just too strong and Canada lost, but what this performance showed was a statement to the rest of the world that Canada would not be giving away easy points to big opponents this World Cup. Losing to tournament favourites Sri Lanka the following game,
Well, that's got to be close. Up she goes. That's it. All over this time.
Canada would need to bounce back against former World Cup winners, the West Indies. And this is when their opener Davison, who had been relatively quiet so far this tournament, did this.
That's a magnificent blow. That's gone for 6. That's another one. Gone away.
He's gone for the pull shot again and he's hit that beautifully, and that's another one.
24 he has. And he's hit it high and handsome. Will it reach the boundary? Yes, it has. He goes to 100 with the most magnificent 6.
What an achievement. A minor cricket nation in their first major tournament in over 20 years, breaking world records. Unheard of. This on its own was the achievement of the game, because sadly for Canada, once Davidson was dismissed, Canada's batsmen and bowling lineup couldn't back it up. And while they're able to dismiss Mr. Universe himself, Chris Gale, out cheaply when they went into bowl, the West Indies batsmen were too good and finished off the job, defeating Canada comfortably.
There's that shot, and that's gone miles. That has gone a long, long way. That's the biggest we've seen today.
The West Indies were always expected to win this, but the fact that Canada was able to scare them with such an incredible performance by Davidson was something that Canada should be incredibly proud of. Canada earned respect with these tight losses, and their victory against Bangladesh is unlike in football and many other sports. Small cricket nations are not expected to be able to challenge in the way that Canada was doing, especially with a country that has such little experience on the world stage. Now, Canada should have been able to take this momentum and grow as a cricket nation, but unfortunately this is basically where their story ended for the time. This loss certified their World Cup exit, because after the 2003 World Cup, Canada was not able to replicate a run like this again. They did qualify for the 2007 and 2011 World Cup, but didn't make a mark and eventually lost their ODI status in 2015 when they failed to qualify for that year's World Cup in Australia. Now in the mid-2010s, Canada found themselves in a bit of a rut, with their star players such as Davison now retired, and without international recognition, Canada found themselves in a difficult place. So after 2015, this once dark horse nation was now forgotten about. The world moved on, but the plucky administrators behind the scenes at cricket in Canada were not done with. In 2018, Canada launched the T20 competition, a local franchised league which recruits a mixture of star international players from around the world to be mixed in with local talent to be played around the country. In recent years, this competition has gone above and beyond what it ever expected to be, enticing world-class players and the eyes of the world too, helping to spark a new era of cricket in Canada. It is igniting a passion for the game at a local level, as well as bringing international attention from these world-class players playing in the league. Canada has finally put themselves back on the map as a cricketing nation. This is great for the game as it allows local talent to test themselves against the best in the business, and this has coincided with an improved performance from their national side once again. Regaining the America's Championship earlier this year by dominating their continental rivals, as well as finally regaining their official international status as an ODI side, Canada cricket has improved again. And this has led to them finally set to appear once again on the world stage, as they have just qualified for the 2024 T20 World Cup, which is set to be played right next door to their country in the West Indies and the United States. Let's see if they are able to repeat the heroics of their 2003 side once again.